Lou Slimak, Director of Assessment, Provost's Office. We're going to be talking about program and curriculum proposals, program proposals, and course proposals. And I want to kind of start with what brought us here. And the Registrar's Office, Misty Walden-McKyle and Sean McGowan are back in the back to help me make sure I'm not saying anything really, really stupid. Really stupid's okay. Really, really stupid, stop me. The genesis of this is that I think as we've been in position the last couple of years, we serve on both grad council and the curriculum committee, and so we see all of the course proposals, all the program proposals that come. They obviously are reviewing before they even get there, and we see the same pattern of problems, the same things that get packed all the time. So this is our start of a process to start training the trainers, start training the people who submit those proposals, who review them in the colleges, who review them at the department level, so that again, that you're not stuck in curriculum committee for months, which is the frustrating part, right? You thought you reviewed them at the college to get to the curriculum committee, and 6 months later, you're still in curriculum committee. To that end, we started looking at what resources, information were out on the web, and what I found were there were 6 different policies and or websites, and they all said something slightly different. You know, shocking, isn't it, Ann? There were 21 for academic integrity, so this was, 6 isn't bad. So we were starting to compile those into one new place under Paul's website, which is the Academic Strategies Curriculum and Assessment website under Curriculum. This is a new website born like yesterday. So we will be building it out with resources and more content, but then I like to start telling people, like we do with Program Review, this is here. If you need things, if you want things, if you're missing things, let me know, I'll build it out. We already have plans for 2 other resources that are coming. One is a calendar, a timeline, more specific to when things need to be into different places, so that you can take advantage of when the curriculum committee and grad council needs to get through things, but you'll still have to account for your own department and college timelines. Davis, I think is the one you said, meets like once a month, right? If you're in Davis and you have a program proposal and you miss their 1 month, it's not that the curriculum committee may be slow, you may have missed 1 month deadline at Davis, right? Know your own local timelines. And then there are a whole bunch of other resources that we want to build out as well, and I'll be talking about where those will go. Interrupt as we go, stop me as we go. It's informal, I don't care. The first thing I want to start with, and the reason we crafted definitions in the catalog, is we realized people didn't know what they were proposing. I think I'm proposing a new degree program. You aren't. I think I'm proposing a new major. Wrong. This is an area of emphasis. It's a minor. What's a minor? Oh my God. Right? So it's funny now. So we published academic definitions for each of these things in an effort to start educating people about what they are and then how we will talk to you about these things. We like common degree designations. The most common at the undergraduate level is BA, BS. We would like to stay with that as much as possible. If you have an accrediting body that recognizes a particular degree designation, that's fine. We're going to recognize it. If it's a national degree designation, engineering has some that are weird that are national, that's fine. If you want to make your own degree designation, the BS LOU, that's not okay, right? That would be an awesome degree, but we're not going to grant you the BS LU. This is the first place. What is the degree designation? What does it mean? It will appear on the transcript. What is the degree program? Well, that's that designation and the giant title, the BS in chemistry, the BA in English, right? This is everything that gets reviewed in the Board of Governors program review. That could be one major sometimes, that could be multiple majors sometimes, right? The degree program is the biggest package of content and stuff that we have, and there are some definitions. A bachelor's degree program needs 120 credits, or it's not a bachelor's degree program, you're short. I don't think we see too much of that anymore. But the master's degree program is one that we had to put in that 30 limit because we had credit hours all over the place. It needs 30 credit hours to be a master's program, at least 30 credit hours. If you're over 30 credit hours, you become one of those places like, why? Why do you need 36? Why do you need 38, 39? There's nothing wrong with that, but expect that question. If the typical definition is 120, is 30, why are you deviating from what we typically see? And we get a lot of questions about what the doctoral degree requires. It doesn't require anything. Does that mean you need credits? No, it doesn't, technically. But if you start building out a plan of study that has 20 credit hours in your doctoral program, you're requiring 20 credit hours. Don't come back and say, well, it's not required by definition, but you have required 20 credit hours. What are you requiring, right? These are the definitions of what is required. You can require whatever you want. This has to guide you. You can't have less than 120 credits in a bachelor's program. You can't have less than 30 in a master's. We don't technically care what you do in your doctoral program, but once you've set those requirements, those are the requirements. To be a degree program, you have to have one major. Don't propose a degree program and not have a major. They are actually pieces, right? And a major then is that particular field of study with a curriculum. A degree program doesn't really have a curriculum. It's the area of study, right? The curriculum belongs to a major within that degree program. It can be one-to-one. You could have the BS in chemistry, the major is chemistry, you're done, right? That's fine. And there are lots of programs that are a one-to-one. But there are lots of degree programs that have 3 and 4 majors within them, and they are slightly different fields of study. And again, the definition here is that you need 30 credits in that major, and we've said the majority, so more than 15, at the upper division level, at the 300 to 400 level. And people ask us then what shows up on the transcript. You would get the BS in chemistry, right? So the BS in chemistry is your degree program. In chemistry is the major, yes.
Sorry. So the majority of the credits at the upper division level does not mean 50%, it means 51%, right?
True.
50
Yes.
plus 1 credit hour.
Right.
Yes.
So if a
More
major
than.
had 30 credits,
It has to be
they
16.
have to have 16 at the upper division level.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you, Joy. You get that question? The question was how much headroom?
We have that question in our curriculum
Yes.
committee right now.
Yes.
So
Majority actually does mean more than 50%. Thank you. Minors are only undergraduate critters. I actually had this discussion with a graduate dean the other day. They wanted to propose a new graduate minor. And I said, well, that's super exciting, but we can't do that. That's a certificate or something else. And these are areas of study outside the major. And I think this is something that we see a lot of confusion on. You cannot minor in your major, right? That's the nice phrase I think that Valerie I've heard you say.
That was in the catalog for years.
You can't minor in your major?
It was,
Oh, that's
the
awesome.
One place was you cannot minor in your major, and the other place was you cannot minor in the same area of study as your major. So it was worded in 2 different places.
So you-
differently in 2 different.
And the idea is, the minor is outside of the major, and it's a package of curriculum of at least 15 credits, 9 of which are upper division level, again, that are on your transcript. These are standalone curriculum. They have their own, they can have prereqs, they can have their own course requirements, but you can't have them attached to a major. If you have a little package of curriculum that you want to be something that actually is a certification, that's an area of emphasis in the major. So the minor in the major is the area of emphasis, right? And this is where I think this is where we see a fair amount of confusion. And I was just talking to someone in Statler about a number of yours. I think that's one of them. Yeah. Yeah, you've got minors that really should be areas of emphasis, and then it wouldn't be a problem, right? Where you have a small packet of curriculum, 12 to 18 credits, 9 at the upper division level, that then are a specialization within a major. The difference is minors you have to have 9 unique credit hours to a minor. When I say 9 unique credit hours, that means they can't overlap with anything else. I'm already ready for this week, or today, Valerie. So an area of emphasis, though, you could earn within your major. You don't have to go outside and take unique classes. They're earned as you're earning your major. And while they have to be at the upper division level and they have to be packaged, you earn them as you're earning your major. That's the distinction between those two. And again, there are a number of these we're cleaning up. Part of the reason we put credit hour limits on them is that they were being used inappropriately. We had areas of emphasis that had 80 credit hours in them that were bigger than majors. We had majors that were smaller than a minor, 10 credit hour majors.
Question on minors.
Uh-huh.
So if you have 15 credit hours, but each one of those, say 5 3-credit courses, have a string of prerequisites that are another 3 courses before it gets to it, does that still fit within the 15 credits of the minor? Because you don't notice that until you try to advise a student to start doing it and realize you have to start 2 years out to get to the one course, which is the first course of that sequence.
That minor. So the question was about prereqs to minors and whether they count in the 15 credit hour sequence. No, they do not. So B&E was a good example of this. They just proposed a whole bunch of minors that had insane amount of prereqs that really, I mean, if it was 15 credits to earn the minor, but when you counted the prereqs, that at first blush, they were horrific. They were a major, really. What B&E ended up going back is changing their prereqs.
Well, I just tried to advise a student in B&E, and for one of their first one, there were 3 prereqs,
Mhm.
all sequential. So literally, you could only take that first course your 4th semester.
Right. And so they're working on, I think they had one that was left to fix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it really wasn't a minor to somebody
No.
outside who's trying to not get a business degree.
And that, so
It's
what,
a minor.
you can propose that. What curriculum committee will almost certainly say is,
Well,
but
that
they're
works.
fixing it.
Okay.
They're fixing it. So they fixed all the others that were like that, and they had one they missed, and so they're fixing that one for the same way.
Found yesterday.
Yeah, it's probably, okay, do you remember which one it is off the top of your head, Misty? Sean? I don't either. There's one that's hanging out there.
Data analytics, maybe? I looked at a report yesterday, and one was just crazy.
Louis, I think there are cases where minors have prerequisites that are not included, and that's when the minor is skills-based. So for example, when you have world language,
Okay.
you need 4 semesters of language, that's 12 credits, before you can do the first 300 level class.
Because of the upper divisions,
Because
right?
of this, so you would really have a minor, if we counted the prerequisites, you would do French 101, 102, 203, 204, and 300 level,
But-
that would be 15 credits.
But it wouldn't be the upper
But it
division.
wouldn't be the upper division, so, I know, math is not set up like that currently, so math is a 21 credit minor. But really, it's the same idea, is that I would like to take the calculus out, because you need to get your basic skills in math before you can reach the level where you can earn any kind of credential. So I think there are, but B&E, that was not the case with B&E, it was meant to streamline who got into the
Yeah.
classes. But I think there are cases where we will see prerequisites for minors.
Yeah. No, and again, there's nothing inherently wrong with prereqs before minors. That the curriculum committee will look at it, and that will be kind of that will be a question they ask, though, is if you've got 12 credit hours, is there a way around it? With
Yeah.
world languages, you can test out of it theoretically, right?
Yes,
With B&E, you couldn't. You would have been stuck in it. And again, part of it also is how you market the minor. B&E marketed that package of minors as appealing to people in Statler specifically. And when we looked at it, we're like, well, Statler's curriculum is limited, and you've got additional 15, 18 credit hours of prereqs. That marketing didn't make sense, right? So it's also depending on what you're saying about what the minor is for. That's right. And we'll talk about the intended audience when we get to minors. So again, having prereqs won't get you unapproved. It will draw questions. It's also going to be looked in the context of who you're saying that minor is for and what audience it's intended to serve.
I think it's like if we did a minor, we were talking about doing a minor in chemistry, that would be aimed at people who already do Chem 115, 116, and organic, and then maybe organic would be included in the minor. But it's not intended for people who walk off the street and say, oh, I'm going to minor in chemistry, because that would just never work.
Tracks are not a credential. They're just a thing you can do to track different people in your program. That's why it's literally a track. It's a tracking mechanism. You can do these to your heart's content. You can set them up. Who do they set track? I would assume with the registrar's office. Tracks. Who do they set tracks up with? Are tracks? I mean, they're not a credential. Do they set them up themselves?
They set them up within the major itself.
Within the major itself? But they're not a credential. They don't actually award the student anything. They're allowed. They're a way for you to look at different pathways to a major. I don't have a great example of how they're used. The 2 different tracks in biochemistry.
Biochemistry has a biology track and a chemistry track. And it's represented in the catalog. It says track 1, track 2, and then it's also represented in degree works. But tracks are a pain.
Okay. Yeah, they're weird.
Yeah.
Barbara.
Yeah, we've been asked to change some of our AOEs, and it was suggested to us that we use tracks for that purposes, for people earning teaching certification versus just a degree
Mm-hmm.
without that. And so our question too was about how to set up tracks. And we were told that engineering has tracks, but engineering actually has different major codes, and that's how they track their students.
No, they have tracks within the major.
Mm-hmm.
So biochemistry has tracks within one major code.
Okay, so you talk about our first year program, we do have 3 different,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we admit into
Yeah.
3 different major codes
Yeah.
based on where they fall in math.
But that's not what those tracks
But
are.
that's different
That's
than I
not
think
what
this
those
has.
Yeah.
tracks are.
I'm not sure.
But,
how else I thought, but I
but
know
my
what you
question
mean.
is, if you can't see tracks in Banner, then we can't, provide the data for our accreditation, folks. We'd have to have a separate database and follow all those students by hand.
This was actually similar to a concern I've got going on in human nutrition and foods, where they've currently got 2 tracks. They need to track one population for accreditation concerns, and they've got one that they don't. I don't have an answer for this. This is about tracking students actually.
Maybe looking at what we did
in
for
Banner.
the WVU Teach and give the students a T code or another code, but T would work for track.
But can we, I mean, they already have T codes assigned, because they do that. You weren't supposed to assign them until the end of the program, but then you started assigning them at the beginning. But I don't think you can sort them
Based on what track
based
they're in.
on the T code.
So I'm working on this with another program anyways. Let me just say, Barbara, I'll come back to and try and figure that out. I have to figure it out one way or the other. And that's why tracks are funny, is because they are a thing, but they're not a thing. Why were you asked to move off of AOEs?
Well, because we currently have AOEs, and the AOEs are larger than,
Oh.
they were developed many years ago and under different circumstances, so now they're too
They don't fit
large
the
and they want
definition.
us to cut them down.
I gotcha.
But the definition of an AOE, the last sentence is,
Yeah, I
areas
remember
of
that.
emphasis are noted, or, may exceed the credit limit based on.
Oh, if they're a certification or
I
licensure.
remember having that
Yeah.
discussion with Laura.
That's true, yeah. I think that would be a way to go back and talk about whether or not, if you've got licensure attached to AOEs, you should be able to use those for
Yeah.
that purpose. No, that's right.
Yeah.
Copy me in. If you're talking to Laura, copy me in. We'll try and carry that forward. Certificate programs are degree programs. So we typically think of, associates, bachelor's, master's, doctoral programs. Certificates are in that exact same category. They're their own little weird standout, but they are actually a degree program, and they get reviewed as a degree program, not only through curriculum committee, but now through Board of Governors program review. They are a smaller thing. They'll get a streamlined program review, a Board of Governors program review, but they are a degree program. The undergraduate certificate programs have to be attached to a bachelor's. You cannot earn them, you cannot enroll in an undergraduate certificate program in and of itself. It has to do with gainful employment reporting. That is a giant, massive headache and not worth what we see at the undergraduate certificate level. Graduate certificate programs do stand alone, can stand alone, and we have a fair number of those. That said, Catherine Carrick and I looked at graduate certificate programs last year, and about half of them disappeared because half of them or more had nothing in them. So certificate programs are weird. If you're proposing one, you should be thinking about, does it lead to a major or not? Who is the standalone audience for that? We're working on stackable credentials at the graduate level. So if you had Certificate A and Certificate B completed, you would earn master's degree here, and just by combining them. You may have to take an additional course or two, but we're looking at that now. Again, if you're proposing certificate programs, know that you're proposing a degree program. It has all of the requirements that a degree program has. Definitions, that was exciting. Questions on any of the definitions? I haven't even got the proposals yet. Woo. The next thing, to re-emphasize, there's a general timeline for approval for degree programs and proposals. And this is then for, I put academic programs, minors, areas of emphasis. Need to put certificate programs up there. They only become active at the fall term. So if you propose one at any point in the time of the year, it gets approved at any point in time in the academic year. It does not start being offered until the next fall. Is there any wiggle room in that, or is that always just next fall period? Fall period. Easy enough.
I have a question.
Shoot.
So even online, we are going to offer summer,
Mm-hmm.
so this coming summer, but that would not count then, because it's not fall.
If it's a new degree program,
Yeah.
it was approved when?
Well, we are working on it. So.
Then you'd have to wait till fall.
Or you can
Correct.
offer the courses and
Y-
then
right.
after in the fall, you can move the students in the degree program. So you can unofficially start the students on coursework but they can't.
They're not
be
in the degree
graduation.
program, correct.
See, but they're still
Is it
able to
graduate?
take
Those
classes.
courses, yes, they just won't be in the major code because the major code won't exist
Later
until
on,
fall.
you will count it.
Yes.
Yes.
If is it a graduate program and an undergraduate?
Undergrad minor.
Undergrad minor? Okay,
Yeah.
that will work. It doesn't always work with graduate programs.
So the question was, as you're working on a degree program, it's been approved for the next fall, can you start offering the courses in the summer? The question is yes, you can enroll students in those courses, but they're not technically in that degree program or whatever it is. You have to wait till the next fall to enroll them. Misty?
just want to talk about a minor and some things like that.
So if you are advising for a minor that can be approved for a future
Oh,
catalog year though,
Yeah.
and you would say you would update that student for the, or say, you're advising the student for a future catalog year for the minor, to add that minor to the student's record, you would have to update their catalog year, which would also potentially impact their,
Oh.
their
Any other
curriculum
requirements.
requirements for that.
Yeah.
So the addition from the registrar's office was that, so in this case, where you've got students being put into a courses in the minor that doesn't exist yet in the summer, you're gonna then update them in the fall to add them to the minor. That changes their catalog years to have the minor. That may have implications then for their degree plan of study, for degree requirements, because it's gonna change their catalog year. So when you do that, that would be part to advise your students as you're doing it. If
There are changes to the program's requirements.
if there have been changes, correct. Yeah.
In that same example, or hypothetically, so they start in the summer, they get approved in fall, but for juniors and seniors, if those are changes, they should not be taking the minor.
They can.
If it's going to change them, you mean? Well, so that, again, you would want to be, so the question was, for juniors and seniors in particular, if you're going to do this, you would need to be cognizant of what the changes meant.
Right.
If you ended up changing their catalog year and adding another year of courses because of course requirements, I would advise them, right, you don't want to change their catalog year for that. And I think if you just waited to the fall, right, and then started taking classes in the fall once the minor was approved, would you have to change their catalog year at that
Yes, you
point?
would.
Oh, you still have to do it? Yeah.
Because
It's a new
not
minor.
active in that
That's right.
catalog.
Okay, that's right. Yep, so then no, yeah.
Right.
It'd be, again, it's cognizant of
Depending on
program
how many
changes.
changes.
That's right. This would be cognizant of the program changes.
And then sometimes even if there are changes to the program, the changes can be accommodated with a new catalog year if you have equivalent courses that can fulfill the requirements, so the student can have the best of both worlds.
Yep, and that's, again, further discussion is then to say, if there are changes and if they would have added time, you can also have course equivalencies that may negate some of those additional requirements. So again, it's a matter of really working through the advising at that point to make sure you're not going to put your students at disadvantage. General review timeline, I think we see, I mean the registrar's office more than me, will see email from faculty who send off their initiation and then don't understand why the curriculum committee hasn't passed it the next week. And that's because it has to go through a lot of steps before it even gets there. It's got to go through their department chair, their college curriculum committee, their college dean's office, the relevant provost for academic programs, which is either then Catherine Carricker or Paul Kreider. Then it goes to the faculty senate curriculum committee or the graduate council, depending on what it is. Then it goes to executive committee, and then it goes to senate, right? All of these steps get hit along the way. If you have a snag in any of them, if someone misses a meeting, if someone doesn't see it in their email, it will sit in any of these steps. So again, if you're working on a proposal that's got a tight timeline, you've got to know your local calendar, and we will post then the more university level, the faculty senate and grad council timelines to tell you, hey, get things in by this point. Give yourself plenty of lead time. I mean, we encourage, if you're approving new programs for the next fall, I think that the safest thing to do is have them in the fall previous so that they've got plenty of lead time to get reviewed and approved. If you're trying to do that in spring, it's not that it can't happen, but you're giving yourself less wiggle room for anything to get to go wrong. We will have a set of calendar, a crucial date calendar here coming soon to the website. And so now we move into actual stuff in the proposals. This is going to be aligned with what's in KIM. KIM is going to be refreshing soon, so some of these fields will be a little different. I will go back and update this page. So again, the questions update here or align here with what you'll see in KIM. When you propose a new academic program, that's degree programs, certificates, and majors, they have to be approved by the Board of Governors after being approved by the Senate. So there's an additional step for that. They have to work, you will work in consultation with the Office of the Registrar and the Provost's office to determine what qualifies as a new degree program. You may think it's a new degree program, you may think it's a new major. Sean and Misty, myself, maybe the Associate Provost will probably weigh in and say, yeah, you're better off as a new major. No, you thought this was a major, it's really its own field of study, it should be a new degree program. You can request what you think it is, what you like, but again, there will be people who weigh in and tell you what we think best. We are trying to align this process so that things are commonly structured. We have lots of degree programs with many majors that probably should be separate degree programs around the university. We have lots of separate degree programs that should probably be combined or into one around the university because of past inconsistencies. So again, there'll be a kind of a consultation where necessary to get you to approve what you need to be approving. The first thing you're doing if you do a new degree program, certificate, or major, and this is only for new degree programs, certificates, and majors, is an intent to plan. An intent to plan is exactly what it sounds like. It's approval to move forward with planning, right? These are substantial planning activities. You have a lot to do to get a new degree program or major approved. So before you waste your time on that, we're going to make you at least say, does this idea have any warrant in it? We have seen a number of intent to plans the intent to plan comes in, it sits there, and 3 years later the proposal comes in. 3 years have passed. That's a much different thing than it was when it was the intent to plan. They expire after a year, a calendar year from when they were approved. So if it gets approved at the March Graduate Council meeting or Faculty Senate Committee, the next April you have lost your window of getting the program proposal in, you'll start back up with new intent to plan. You can update it, you can go back in and just kind of say, hey, these are all the same, these are the things that have changed. It will have to get reviewed and approved again. What's in the intent to plan? Program student learning outcomes. Right now it says something like educational objectives or something like that. We're changing that. It'll be program student learning outcomes. These can change, but again, the guidance on these, and we see a lot of problems with these, so I'm going to spend some time on this as our first trouble area. They should be clear, measurable, appropriate number, appropriate to the degree level. Clear means that I understand what they're actually what students would do to fulfill them, right? If I'm wondering, gosh, what would a student do to do that? It's probably not very clear. Measurable is what would you give the assessment guy on campus to prove that they have attained this, right? You could actually give me something. If I came knocking on your door and said, hey, it's program review time, what do they do to show an appreciation of Virginia Woolf? I don't know what they do. They get this. Well, it's not measurable then, right? Start over. I'm not a Bloom's taxonomy guy. There are crazy assessment people who will trot out Bloom's taxonomy and make sure you've got the appropriate verbs all up and down the level. It should be appropriate, right? If you're a graduate program and all of your learning outcomes are at the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy, that seems strange, right? That would be what we would expect at an associate's level maybe, and not even at an associate's level. If you're at associate's level and everything that you're proposing is at the graduate level at the high end, it seems strange. Again, not wrong. We're going to ask questions. Appropriate in number is exactly that. You are saying that you deliver on all of these things. When it comes time to present your BOG program review, we're going to see that you have or haven't measured all of these things. If you give yourself 16 learning outcomes, you're going to say you measure all 16 in a program review cycle, which is 5 years, which just seems like a lot of work. I mean, that's nuts if you don't have to do it. If you're a specialized accreditation, you're stuck with it. That's life. And you have your own cycle, and that's fine. But if you don't, give yourself a number that can be assessed on a reasonable cycle. And they should be appropriate to the degree level. Like I said, think about what the degree level is. Think about a progression from simple to more complex. That's where Bloom's can help. But then also realize that you don't have to get your undergrad students to be producing graduate level synthesis and analysis, right? That's an undergraduate degree. There are different guides out there. The Curriculum Committee has a guide on appropriate learning outcomes. I put one up on the Teaching and Learning Commons site. They're both fine. You can go out and have others. You can call Robin Shannon, who's at the Teaching and Learning Commons, or myself. We'll be happy to look at them. You will get lots of feedback on these. We see lots of bad learning outcomes. The other thing we see are learning outcomes that aren't learning outcomes. This program will prepare you for a career, period. That's fantastic. I'm super happy you're doing it. Not a learning outcome, right? It is connected to student learning. What will they learn? Well, they won't learn to be prepared for a career. That's an outcome of the program. That's fine. You can even say you're going to assess that, I guess, some way. But that's not a learning outcome. The learning outcomes are driven by the curriculum and what the curriculum is delivering. And if I can't see where it's at in the curriculum, we'll come back and be like, why did you say you would deliver this? What is this thing? Is it something else? So make sure you've got learning outcomes that are learning outcomes. That make sense? Learning outcomes are a big one. We never see problems with number 2. If you cannot tell me how your program relates to the mission, start over. Go somewhere else. My suggestion here is to do the freshman copy and paste plagiarism bit. Go to WVU's mission page, look at the mission, port some language over. It supports the mission. Connect it, right? We're not asking you for a creative writing exercise here. How does it support teaching, research, the state, right? Don't overthink this one. Again, we rarely see problems, but this isn't where, if you've got problems in mission, you probably have problems elsewhere. The summary of content in the intent to plan is exactly that, a brief summary of the program or major's content. You are not providing an exhaustive list of all courses. If you've got that at this point in your planning, that's fine. Go ahead and provide that, more better. But it's not necessary at this point. The intent to plan is we're thinking about a major that will cover these 3, 4, 5 major areas, these kinds of courses. Okay, that's good. That's an intent to plan. We have enough. You will have to do that later at some point. So again, if you're there and you're planning at the intent to plan, that's fine. But again, we don't see too many that don't have something here. If it's so high level that you're just restating what the major area is, the BS in neuroscience will teach neuroscience. Well, I mean, I figured that out from the major title. What do you mean by neuroscience, right? Again, but it's broad description at that point. There's a commitment to assessment. What is your general anticipated assessment plan? Saying that you will assess student learning, affirming that you're committed to assessment is super, but I actually want to know what you think you're going to do at this point, right? Again, how will you do it? Particularly how you will do direct assessments, so the kind of thing that you present in program review. We just kicked one back here recently that was like, we'll do ESEIs, and that was it. Like, yay, and I was like, no, send it back. Not good enough, right? What will you actually assess of student learning directly from the program itself? How will you do that? Again, this is not the full-scale assessment plan. If you've got that, attach it. You've got it out of the way, you're done, that's fine. It is your general anticipation based on how much content area. We're going to look at dissertations and theses. We're going to look at multiple formative assessments, whatever. Again, just general kinds of ideas of what kinds of things you'll do for assessment. Partnership agreements is one we see a lot of problems with, mainly because people will acknowledge that there's someone else who's doing something like this and not have then contacted that department. So if there are other departments at WVU who will deliver coursework for your program, and you know that ahead of time, they should approve the fact that they are going to be included in this new program. And what we see a lot of times is, yeah, well, hey, we're going to hit Eberly up for chemistry and bio and whatever. Did you ask Eberly? We have not. Well, that's a problem. You need to ask Eberly. They're delivering courses for your new major. Even if it's within Eberly, it's a unit within Eberly asking another unit within Eberly to supply courses. Have you talked to that unit? Is there capacity? And then the idea, again, is there capacity? You're saying you're planning this new major. You don't know that those units can actually support the program. This is general at this point. Again, you should have contacted the unit that you have an intent to plan out, that you're proposing this new major, this new program, that they're involved, they're supportive. At that point, it's fine. If you have contractual or consortial agreements, they should be disclosed here if they exist. That means, and we only have one at the university level, aerospace engineering and management down at WVU Beckley has their flight training provided by, who is it?
I think it's Embry-Riddle in Florida.
No, it's now somebody in Charleston. That's why it's an F.
Like in a plane?
Correct. And we can't do that. That's why someone else is providing it, right? And so that's a consortial agreement. Another accredited institution is providing certain parts of your curriculum. Those should be disclosed here. We should know who those people are. We should know that they've agreed to provide those. Yeah.
If you're doing a graduate program and you're gonna have a preferred undergraduate major that's developing a track, do you want that here?
Yeah, that would be good here. It's going to be explored more in the major also, which is that if the major feeds into or is fed from, that there should be a partnership agreement there. But same kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
They're not delivering coursework, but I would think again, if you're like, hey, this major is really going to feed us, have you talked to that major about feeding you, right? Are they prepared to actually think about feeding you? Yeah. Any of those kinds of partnerships should be explored. Yeah. 6 is just making sure other institutions in West Virginia don't have the similar kind of program. We have to talk to HEPC every time we have duplication across the state. It's not a big pain, but HEPC will ask, and we have to file a single little form. You know that?
We all offer history majors.
We all have to file a form.
No, but the goal is not to avoid duplication necessarily, right?
Not
It's to
necessarily
know
where it's at
those
and why.
programs are and how
Yeah.
many students are in
Yeah.
them.
Well, and so that's again, it's also to major, yeah, to monitor need. Yeah, they
That
don't.
information is on the HEPC website.
Yep.
People
Yeah.
have to find that out.
I was just going to say, so if you want to know this, the HEPC has a website of programs offered at locations, something like that. Is that how it's arranged? If it is, it's not your problem. We will take care of it. We just need to know if there are other institutions at West Virginia that offer a similar program. This next one is one that we're starting to ask for more specificity, which is program necessity. So some form of early research that demonstrates a regional or national need for the program or major. At this point, it's not all that developed, but you should be able to say, this is why we think we need it. I'm going to say a lot of this. Be sure to include how you arrive at these numbers. We see a lot of proposals that say, we sure think that people really want this major, and we think 50 people a year will come in. And it's kind of like, where'd you get these 50 people? How do you know that people want this major? Whatever you're doing, we haven't said what you have to do yet. We're not ready to provide support for that yet. But whatever you do, try and indicate how you have arrived at those numbers so that we can at least start to track back to your projections and understand why you're projecting what you're projecting. If your program is going to be delivered online, WVU Online does this for you, and you can reach out to them and request a feasibility study. And in fact, that's going to be a part that we look for WVU Online, is go ahead and reach out and say, conduct the feasibility study for us, and you can just upload that, and this part is taken care of.
So we contact you or for that?
Which part?
WVU Online.
Feasibility study.
That's WVU Online if your program is going to be delivered online, and WVU Online will run that through their office.
So all these are major and above a program, not the minor or certificate?
Correct. Well, this is certificates, so this is majors, degree programs, certificates. Make sure it's all of it, right? Yeah, majors, degree programs, certificates get this piece. And then the next piece is true of everybody. I'll go through that as well. Resources, any additional resources you think that are needed. This is kind of just a big laundry list at this point. Faculty, space, equipment, facilities, whatever you think is needed at this point. And any startup monies. A lot of programs will get a couple $1 million to start up. Well, then what's the plan to then continue on the program after the first 2 years, 4 years of startup money is depleted? If you were given 2 years of funding for your startup faculty lines, what's the plan for then covering that money after that startup money has been depleted? Then the modality question is about modality. Is this online? Is this hybrid? Is this face-to-face? There are online definitions connected to the academic definitions I just showed you. If the program is going to be delivered more than 50% online, so it becomes a truly online program by definition, you need a letter of support at this point from WVU Online. You have to notify them. They're going to help you work with you through their standards, provide the support they need to provide for online students. They need to be included in this process at this point. That's the intent to plan.
And what is the approval process for the intent to plan? Is it the same as for the full proposal?
So if you're proposing a degree program, your intent to plan goes through the full approval process,
Same 8.
not the Board of Governors.
Not the faculty senate. At the undergraduate level, the intent to plan is approved by
graduate.
the graduate.
So the question was about the workflow for intent to plans. Graduate intent to plans end with the graduate council, so step 6. Undergraduate intent to plans end with the relevant provost at step 5. And then they proceed back to the beginning, though, for now full proposals. You're back to square one. So the full proposal then for degree programs, and again, so now my intent to plan has been improved. If I'm a degree program, I start here. If my intent to plan for new major new majors, that will have a different piece. If I'm a degree program, I'm going to have both the degree program and the major piece, right? So there are different pieces that only pop up depending on NCAM based on what you've suggested. This is for all degree programs, and these are the steps now for all degree programs. Again, mission. Further develop the connection of the program to the institution's goals, objectives, strategic, or master plan. Again, same steps. Go back, develop it further. Tell us a nice story about why your program is so necessary and so great for the institution. If you can't do that, I can't help you. The intent to plan has been submitted at some time in the past. We've reviewed it at some time in the past. Almost always something has changed. We've decided we don't need as many faculty. Additional money has come in. Curriculum has changed. Whatever. What other further development has occurred since the intent to plan, kind of give us that update in number 2. What has additionally been invested? What has been approved? What has changed? Again, anything that is just kind of like, hey, since you've heard from us at the intent to plan stage, here is what has happened, right? What do you need to know? Good and or bad. So that we can, again, adjust whether we need to think differently about your program proposal. Expand the anticipated need by now addressing specific target populations the program will serve, what the specific needs of that population are and how the program will meet it, and then interest somewhere, research, industry, other academic institutions, governmental agencies, state, whatever indicators justify your particular program. And like I keep saying, be clear where you're coming from this. Again, if you think, we know that the FBI needs cybersecurity. Okay, do you have something from the FBI itself that says this? Is there research out there the FBI was looking for this? How do you know the FBI needs cybersecurity people? Try and tell us who you're getting the information from, again, just so that we can see if we want to track back to where you're coming from, where that information is coming from. Employment opportunities are the same kind of thing. Provide an evidence-based projection of employment opportunities. They'll get jobs everywhere, because that's what all programs want to be like. Hey, this, of course they'll get jobs. How do you know? Where will they get jobs, and what references can you give to indicate the types of jobs where such a program is appropriate? Career Services has national data on different trends for certain disciplines, national and regional forecasts. If you're looking for this and you don't know how to get it yourself, you don't have an accrediting body that provides it, you don't have a national clearinghouse that provides it, you can reach out to the Office of Career Services and see if they have it. They're a place to start for some people anyways. But again, the thing we see with both 3 and 4 often is just soft numbers that don't have any connection to anything. And projecting that 200 people will graduate and get jobs all the time is fantastic, except that we don't know why 200 people will graduate and get jobs and where they'll go, or how you know that. Yeah?
Who in Career Services does those forecasts?
I think you can just ask Dave Durham to start with. The question was who in Career Services to contact. Dave Durham is the Director of Career Services, the Executive Director of Career Services. Start there. He will tell you who in that office can do those. I saw another hand. Yes.
So in the situation that I face where we're going from one degree level to another, but the same major, can we use past employment trends of our graduates as indicators for what we expect in the future?
Absolutely. Yep. Question was if you've got, so the occupational therapy program is going to move from a master's program to a doctoral program. They have to go through this whole process to get that new program approved. It is a new program. Can you use past data about where your master's students have gone to justify the need for the new program? Of course. Yeah, it's going to be the same students, same job opportunities, same everything. Don't recreate the wheel. Absolutely. You got a section on internal impact. This is back to those who else is going to support you. This draws this out even further, right? So the first one was, hey, if people are teaching it, you should have some letter. This is not, well, If you're saying the program is going to feed some master's program, is the master's program actually going to accept your students? Does it have room for your students? Do they know that you've got a program that's prepared? Are the outcomes aligned? Will they serve that program? And vice versa. If you're a, that was undergrad feeding masters. If you're a master's program and you're looking to an undergraduate program to feed you, the same question exists, right? Does that undergraduate program know? Are they advising their students so? Have they changed their curriculum to feed into you? Are they going to actually serve your needs? Same thing for them teaching courses. Are they providing prereqs, required, elective courses? Do they know that they're providing those courses? Do they have capacity to provide those courses? And again, letters of agreement or support with that academic unit. We see lots of, you can do it with the dean. I like the letters with the deans, that's great. I would like them letters of the dean and the department, because those are two different levels of approval and understanding usually. So try and get both. We're not going to say they're required, at least a letter with the dean's office for sure, but I like to see both. Cooperative arrangements now are slightly different. These are other cooperative arrangements like clinical affiliations, internships, personnel exchanges, equipment sharing. Health sciences does a lot of this, right? So how are you going to do that? Do those units have capacity to actually staff your clinical sites and rotations? Does the hospital know it's getting X more students? Is this internship that you propose that's going to be the capstone experience, does it exist? Does it know that's getting your students for the internship program? Whatever you're doing there externally, cooperatively, has that been finalized, and are those ready for program delivery, particularly if they're essential? If they're an elective, students may take a experiential component that's an internship and it's not necessary. I mean, it's good to show that you've done your homework and have set that up. That won't stop your approval. If it's an elective, it's one possibility. If that's something you need to graduate from this program, then that needs approved at this point in time. That needs to be set in stone by now. Administrative organization. What changes, if any, will be required in departmental, divisional, school, college, or institutional organization? It's particularly relevant if you carry specialized accreditation, right? If you're proposing a new degree program that's going to be specially accredited, that almost certainly means there's going to be staff or administration that sits outside that program to ensure that it keeps its specialized accreditation, because it's usually not able to be done by just faculty. If you're coming into a school that only had one program and it expands that now to 2 programs or 3 programs, are there additional staff members or now dean's office people needed? How is that going to, again, whatever impact it's going to be necessary to run your program should be described here. None of this means you won't get approved. If you hit institutional organization, you've done something wrong, by the way. If you're proposing a new vice president, you're probably out of your league. But the idea here is, again, you know what it will take to administer the program, to actually run and see the program fulfilled. We look for projected enrollments. For the first 5 years, there are specific questions now about what other institutions in the surrounding states or competing states offer similar programs, how that's likely to impact enrollment. Hey, we want to enroll this program. It's going to have lots of students, except that it's offered everywhere around us. Why would we suddenly expect a whole bunch of students if you can go everywhere already? It's not offered anywhere around us. Okay, that's a likely argument then. We typically expect full enrollment in 5 years, just because you'll have gone through your first BOG plus 2 years. New programs undergo their first BOG review in 3 years. If you're not going to be mature in 5 years, when will you be mature? What's the expected timeline to be mature? Again, not that you won't be approved if you're not going to be mature in 5 years, but if you're going to tell me we'll be mature in 20, I think we'd probably tell you it's not a good time to do that now, right? Like, why are you planning out for so long? I've never seen that. I don't think I'm worried about that. But again, same thing here. As you talk about your projected enrollment, be clear about how you arrive at these numbers. If there's one other program in Maryland and it has 20 people and you're projecting 500, why? The one other program that exists in the area is tiny. Why are you going to be so much bigger? If there are lots of other programs that are all similar size, you think you're going to be twice the size of all those similar programs. Why? Why are you going to be bigger? And that's then the program proposal for degree programs. That's the lead-in for all degree programs. Now, if you're proposing a major, or if you're proposing a degree program, you get the major section, right? So this is attached to degree programs. This is the next step. I've already done my degree program step. That's the previous step. Oh, sorry, yeah.
I have a question.
Shoot.
So I might be taking over managing or running a certificate program.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine it'd be nice to have access to this information. Is it kept on file someplace for one that's already?
In existence,
Yeah.
the Curriculum Inventory Management System programs has all of the existing information on those programs. The catalog has similar but other information.
What was the first one again? The
KIM, C-I-M, yeah, programs. And the people you want to talk to about this are sitting immediately to your left. You're welcome. So if you're proposing just a major, you start here. If you're proposing a degree program, because a degree program has to have a major, you get this as well. But this is now then the fields in KIM for all major proposals, regardless of whether it's a degree program or just a major. Now more specific information. What are your admission standards? What is that the relationship to the objectives of the program? Hey, we're going to be this hyper-competitive, specially accredited program, and we're going to take students with everybody. That seems at conflict with your mission, right? Why are you taking everybody? Again, that's not wrong. That would prompt a question. We aren't competitive at all, but we only want students with a 3.75 or above. Okay, I mean, that's fine. You said you're going to have 500 students. Where are you getting them 500 students with a 3.75 or better? Right? Again, it's all about alignment of what you said from one area to the next. There are no guidelines for what you can or can't say in the sense of setting your admission standards. But again, how do they align with the program objectives? What are they? Performance standards are for how you continue in the program. So what GPA do you need to continue? How will you continue to complete the major? Those kinds of performance standards. And again, how do they align to the program objective? We're super competitive. We have specialized accreditations. Our kids need to stay at that 2.0 level. That doesn't seem super competitive. Again, how does it rely? We're going to ask more about alignment here than we are about what the standards themselves are. 3 is one we have done a poor job of in the past and we are paying more attention to now. So be aware that this is one that we are doing more work on and are improving communications on, so you may hear more about this as you propose majors. Is the proposed major or even a similar major offered at another WVU location? We, particularly in Morgantown, feel like we own all curriculum and get to propose everything. You know, Beckley does exist and offer undergraduate degrees. If it's going to be similar, we're going to ask Beckley to weigh in on this. We're also going to see if other places are planning something. It's good to know that, you know, if we're going to plan, if 2 locations are planning a similar degree, maybe they should work in tandem. Maybe they should be aware of each other, right? So have checked with the other locations. If the answer is yes, you're going to need a letter of support with that relevant academic unit and their location. So yeah, it's okay. We've talked to them, right? Adventure Recreation Management from Beckley is a good example of one last year that was similar to some Davis programs, so some programs at Morgantown, and had to get permission from Davis to go ahead and develop that program. If it's something similar across locations, make sure that you've looked at that. Assessment, now you do have to provide an assessment plan. I'm going to start asking maybe next year for actually uploads of assessment plans. I haven't gone that far yet, but I've been more specific about what gets included here. What are you really going to do? You said you were committed to assessment and the intent to plan. How committed are you? Show me, right? Let's put a ring on it. Thanks, Joy. Oh, wasn't you? Oh, was it you, Jess? Joy's like, I didn't laugh. Get that on tape. Yeah.
Went to a Beyonce place.
Thanks. See, thank you. Thank you, Jess. I'm always just thankful for the one person in the crowd that laughs at me. We've got curriculum map templates and assessment plan templates on the Assessment Council website. You do not have to use them. You don't have to use them in total. The idea, these are a guide for the kinds of things that I will help and talk to you about, right? If you like, hey, assessment, we'll do assessment. And I go, what's assessment? We don't know. I'm going to start you here, right? This is where I'll point you. If you've got assessment, you got ABET accreditation. All right, tell me what you do for your ABET programs. If you're in B&E, we have assurance of learning for your AACSB accreditation. How does your assurance of learning work? Actually tell us what you're going to do. And again, You're the perfect example. You've got accreditation standards. What do they require for assessment? You're going to tell us this, and we're going to go, good enough, right? Like, that's fine. What do you do? Part of this helps. You can.
So just like we have Syllabus Builder and Kim for people who kind of want to walk through, there are things that I can point departments to and say, if you don't know how to get started on assessment, or you want to run what you're doing through kind of an accepted
Best
format.
practices.
Right,
Yep.
so you can go to the webpage, there will be links for things
Yep.
like assessment, best practices, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So the question, there's a parallel with Syllabus Builder and courses, although I'm going to, when I talk about courses-ish, maybe, later, we're actually asking Syllabus Builder to be, those syllabi for new courses to now use Syllabus Builder for that
Yes.
proposal, right? Because it has all the required fields, and we at least now are attaching that. This is, like I said, for the moment, this is, because we have so many specially accredited programs that need to do assessment in the way they're required, this is kind of like a, hey, if you don't know what assessment is, here's some parameters. Here's some things that we're going to look for. Is your curriculum mapped? Are you doing formative and summative? Do you know what the difference between direct and indirect?
So just like learning outcomes, where sometimes people get confused about what's an actual learning outcome versus a goal, and there's guidance on that, that's somewhat
Yep.
similar if you think you're assessing, but really
Don't
maybe you're
know.
not. That
Yep.
gives you some way to check in.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, if you've got people or programs that want help, that's also my office. That's Robin Shannon's office. Let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you put that together. We see lots of assessment problems. I get cranky about, again, I get cranky about someone saying, we do SEIs. We will survey our students when they leave the program. That's fantastic. That's good. It's not enough. You know, right? You're asking for new resources. I don't want to give you new resources for a survey. Funding has to be broken down now at this point by different kinds of things that the new major will require. Faculty, what number of faculty do you need? What's the probable rank, experience level, and cost of the new faculty for the startup period? It's particular to new degree programs. If you're proposing a new major and it's all going to be the same, you're going to say, look, it's the same faculty who taught it. There are no new faculty related, right? If you are going to say you don't need new faculty, the immediate question is, why don't you need new faculty, right? In your case, it's super easy to answer. Because it's the same program.
Yeah, but I made a grab for new faculty, I gave it a shot.
Oh, okay, cool. That's cool, yeah. You know, if you don't need, we see a lot of people say, this will draw on existing resources. I like that answer. That's a simple answer. But at some point, I wonder about how thin resources get stretched, right? And I see a program that has now 6 majors in it, and it's trying to grow enrollment by 50%, and it doesn't need any new resources. And I'm like, you're either super overstaffed now, or you're super going to stretch yourself thin later. Which is it, right? And again, so saying no additional faculty is an answer, but again, why? How are you going to convince us that that's okay? Library resources, evaluate the existing resources. That's personnel, that's librarians in your area, that's journals, that's the research databases. What would you need to actually have this program exist? Estimate the cost of getting what you would like to have there. Support services, if additional are required, so that's tutoring, advising, grad assistance, labs, computer facilities, equipment, all that kinds of stuff. Facilities, do you need new space? We're going to have a brand new program in Zero-G ballet. It needs, you know, Zero-G airplane. Well, that goes in here, right? That would be amazing, by the way. I'd be good at that. Thank you. There's my one laugh. Awesome. I'm rolling today.
Well, we have an agreement with an airport already, so.
Right. It's just one step away. Right. We're there. But what space do you need? And then operational costs. If there's anything else that we haven't covered in those 4 categories that you know you're going to expend money on, what is it? What are you expending your money on? Yeah.
So we developed a whole pro forma for ours. Do we need to do additional explanation here plus submit that budget?
No.
We have an actual kind of drawn up, this is the budget.
That's fine. Does it cover these areas?
Yes,
That's fine.
except for the library, I'll talk about
Okay.
that. That's not-
Yeah. No, so yeah, if you've got something, depending on if you're college, school, whoever has made you do an actual budgetary plan and it covers these areas, it doesn't have to go through step by step by step by step. You can submit that in lieu. My personal approach to this stuff is not to make you reduplicate effort. That's stupid if you've done it. But again, this was what we will look for. So Now it's, again, directly asking about prerequisites and course requirements taught by another academic unit. We will make sure you have the letters of support with that unit. We've asked you to do that already. You should definitely have them. If you've had them before, they carry over now. If you haven't had them before, hey, we've talked to that college. They seem like they're okay. Do you have the letter? We want the pattern of availability for all courses and prerequisites. Are students going to be able to take the courses they need to graduate in time? We're going to offer this one critical course that they need to graduate. How often are you offering it? Once every third year. That's not okay, right? We want students to graduate. What is the availability for all those courses and prereqs? And then the modality question again. If your major is going to be online, or a major is going to be online, more than 50%, you need that letter of support from WVU Online. Again, that's a must be included now. It used to be a, yeah, you should talk to them. No, we're going to ask you to actually say you must go talk to WVU Online, get a letter of support. They need to give you things that we can't give you. And I restarted at 1. And then your curriculum requirements and catalog information. So what is the plan of study for undergraduate programs? What are the course requirements? What are the minimum GPA requirements? This is the stuff that pulls over into the catalog and says, this is what the degree program, or the major is, excuse me. How would you categorize the problems we see here? This is more your area, and I have my own, but I feel like I'm going to botch.
A lot of times, the requirements may be articulated that we re-articulate the requirements so that they're more legible for students that go to the catalog and for degree work so that the major blocks can be programmed correctly. So I would just recommend ensuring that the minimum GPA for all courses, if there's a chunk of courses that have a minimum GPA, like a certification block that you need a certain GPA in this certification block, or a minimum GPA for all your major requirements. Those are explicitly stated in the curriculum requirements. What courses need a minimum grade requirement? I know a lot of the engineering programs in their major requirements have a minimum grade of C-. If there are specific courses though that have a minimum grade, articulate those in their curriculum requirements. What courses or what sets of courses have those minimum requirements, those additional layers of requirements?
So, the summary of that is, there's a whole bunch of stuff that have curriculum and course requirements. Call Sean McGowan.
I'm trying to get definitions together that'll streamline that for everybody so they understand, like, if you say a overall GPA in your program, it means this. If you say a 2.0 and, specific coursework, that doesn't necessarily mean a grade of C- will be put on each course. It's saying overall. So we're trying to also add more documentation to that.
That's part of the, so this site is going to be a collaborative site between the registrar's office and the provost's office. And so there'll be resources that come from me, like what we've talked about. There'll be resources that come from the registrar's office, so that as you work through each of these steps, that the appropriate person has said, this is what you need to be concerned about. This is mostly registrar's office concern. So they'll be able to tell you more specifically, like, this is at the course level, this is at the major level, this is the program level, this is how you set these things and say these things. But again, it's an area we see, I think, a fair amount of confusion around. So that's programs and majors. Minors, AOEs, and certificates have their own little things. I'm going to talk about them quickly so I can get to courses. But they're similar. They're more or less the same with things taken out. We do ask for student learning outcomes for a minor. They should have the same guidance as above. The good news here is you won't be assessed, so I'm not going to come back and haunt you as much. If you have terrible learning outcomes on your minor, my concern is that you don't know what the minor is doing for your students. That's why I asked for learning outcomes. They should be doing something for students. Why should I take your minor? This is why you should take my minor. You should take my minor. Why should you take my minor? Because you'll understand and appreciate, stop, I don't want to take your minor, it stinks. But you don't get assessed, so you don't have to worry about actually living up to them. That said, if you have 16 learning outcomes in your minor, I'm going to be concerned that you think you're over-delivering. Additional resources, evidence of need. Evidence of need is different for a minor and AOE. It's the internal audience. Who do you think at WVU that will take this minor? Who are you targeting at WVU? And again, I don't care who you say these are for, but the idea is that you know who you think you're targeting. The exact same reason. When B&E said they were targeting Statler students with their minors, Statler students would really do well with these business minors. Great. There are 5,000 credits and Statler students have 0 extra. How are they going to get this minor? Right? That helps us ask the appropriate question based on who you said your target audience is. Review that no other similar minors are offered, and we're going to stress this more soon. We saw a minor come through maybe 2 years ago that was pretty close to 2 others, and I didn't have enough quite leverage to stamp my feet and say no. I will start saying no. Like this, we have 3 minors on the books that are really the same minor. That's dumb. That is not good for anybody. If you're going to make an argument that it's similar and it should be similar and it should exist, why? Right? Okay, how is it really different? Why should we have a second minor of the same kind? Same kind of partnership agreements, same kind of pattern of availability. It's all great to propose a minor in terms of curriculum. No one can ever offer it because 3 of these courses are only taught by Professor X who's on sabbatical every other semester. Not okay. Modality is the same thing. Difference between AOEs and minors is a letter of support should be included. So, reach out, but you don't have to. Yeah, Joy.
So the pattern of availability for courses and prerequisites, is there some standard guidelines to follow? Because for some programs, they can only offer a certain course, say, once a year, which becomes more complicated for a minor because they're not in as much contact with that program as a major would be. So is there a kind of a general guideline?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I would say if you're at the once a year, I don't think that
Maybe
would
that's a
hold
little
you
sketchy
up.
already, but
If everything was once a year in the entire minor, I think that would hold you up. If it's 1 course, 2 courses, it's again, we don't have those guidelines yet in terms that are hard and fast because of they're often contextual by the audience, right? Some audiences won't matter, some will. But if you start noticing that there's a pattern of availability, that will draw questions. It's going to be related to who the audience is.
So following up on that, let's say we have a program that is proposing a list of courses as part of these electives that can be taken to fulfill the requirement. Let's say that half of those courses haven't been taught, or are taught very infrequently.
Yeah.
Would it probably be best if we advise that unit to prune that to something that's more? Is that something that gets caught at different levels?
It won't. They'll look at that and they'll see a bunch of courses they could take. Part of what the registrar's office and I are going to take to curriculum committee and then the policy committee soon is a cleanup of catalog listing of courses to purge anything that hasn't been offered in the last 7 years. There was how many courses, Misty? 3,500? 3,500 courses on the books right now that have not been taught in the last 7 years. So that you could then throw into programs of study and try and say, hey, these are courses we offered. No, they're not. Like, we don't offer those courses anymore. So we're going to try and purge and clean up the catalog and then have a policy that now says every year we're going to look at courses that haven't been offered in 7 years and they're going to go. It's going to serve 2 problems. One is when I try and assess things, I'm looking at all the courses listed, right? When I'm trying to prove things, I'm looking at all the courses listed. I don't have time to say which of these have been offered in the last 7 years. I've got to pretend that they've all been offered. They haven't. The other thing is we're running out of course numbers. Part of the reason we're running out of course numbers is we have 3,500 courses on the books that haven't been offered in 7 years. So we have to clean up our records and make everybody's life a little more sane. So and it's more or less the same for the area of emphasis. They're pretty sim. You can do program changes and deactivations through KIM. I'm not going to cover this. If you've got questions on program changes or deactivations, call me, call the registrar's office. We will walk you through that. If this ends up being an area we want to spend more time on, I'll come back and do another one with Sean and Misty on just changes and deactivations. The one thing I want to say about deactivations is I see them most around Board of Governors reviews. Your 5-year Board of Governors review is coming up. You're like, man, we haven't enrolled anybody in the last 5 years. We're just going to deactivate the program. Don't do the review. That's fine. Deactivate the program, right? There's no need for you to do the Board of Governors review, which says we haven't enrolled anybody for 5 years and requires you to do all that work when you can just deactivate the program and let us know you'll deactivate the program. Any What? When would change?
Certain percentage of when change would become new?
Yeah, there is.
One?
No. I would say it's going to relate to learning outcomes and how distinct and different they are. I would say it's going to be what we determine SIP codes, whether they have changed based on what you're talking about in terms of content. SIP codes are the federal government's definitions of kind of academic areas. It's how we align what federal financial aid and that kind of things with programs. No one else in the world cares about them but the few weirdos of us that even know what they are. But we actually will look at program changes and be like, ooh, you are drifting away from what you think you are far enough. And again, it's not a percentage, and it's not even necessarily substantial. It's a change to what the program is. And that will be, again, you'll hear from Sean and Misty. They'll probably ask me what I think, and we'll come back and contact you and be like, ooh, I think you've drifted into a new major or a new program. Like you've done something that's just not what you thought it was. And we'll talk through you. Again, we're not going to make any snap judgments. And the last thing I want to cover is course proposals. Not that they're not as important, but they are usually quicker. There are different kinds of things you can do to courses. They can be proposed. You have a new course. They can be altered. I'm not going to talk much about alterations because it's an old thing we used to do that we stopped doing that we're going to do again. And we're not sure how we're going to do it again yet, but I'll at least tell you what that's kind of sketching out to be. You can change a course or you can deactivate a course. Does anyone ever deactivate courses?
Yeah.
Do they? Okay. Okay. Well, 3,500 on the books makes me feel like no. Misty's got my face on right now, which is like no. I don't care about the 5 that do. If you propose a new course, make sure a similar course is not offered by another unit. You can check in Kim Program or Kim Courses, search by the name. You can contact Sean McGowan. You can ask me. But make sure you've looked and make sure there's not an existing course. If similar courses have similar titles, we're going to ask that unit to take a look because part of what Curriculum Committee is most concerned at the course level is overlap of content or kind of creep of scope. Hey, the agrology department teaches agrology and all of a sudden biology's got agrology in one of their titles. Is that cool? Is that a different thing? Is that a different look at the same thing? Did they know? So if you've got something similar, take a look. If it's real similar, obtain a letter of support. All new course proposals should generate a sample syllabus in the syllabus builder. We used to ask for like a instructor level syllabus. Hey, this is what you'll give the students on day 1, right? Well, that's crazy. You haven't offered the course yet. But we do want to see that you actually know the nuts and bolts of what the course will be or intend the nuts and bolts of the course to be. The syllabus builder has all of that stuff in it. If you click on it, there are 2 different kinds of things you can do out of syllabus builder. I'm hoping it's clear. Oh, I've just clicked off my thing. Course proposal syllabus, right? Standard syllabus is what I will hand to my students. If you're doing a course proposal, you want the course proposal syllabus. It cuts out all the stuff we don't care about. If you submit your own syllabus, the Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee is going to pick it to death and ask you for changes. Save yourself the issues. Do the proposal syllabus. That we've posted up their rubric so that you can see what they're looking for, right? If you want to know, if you're the kind of person like, well, what are they going to nitpick me on? This is what they're going to nitpick you on. I'm going to update both of these very soon with guidance about midterm grades. If you want to know how we are going to guarantee that all undergraduate courses can generate a midterm grade, there will be guidance on how we will do that and what we will be looking for. So as policies change that would change what a syllabus needs to have, I'll update both so that people can see what will be evaluated. Yep.
I know there was some talk at one point of saying so many assignments or exams had to be done by that time.
Mm-hmm.
Will that be part of the language that's included in there or not that specific?
It will be, the guidance is going to be that you should have 20% of the course points before midterm. You should. That you should have returned and graded all assignments that were due before midterm to students by that point in time, and have language in your syllabus that informs students what part of their grade has been earned at midterm. Right? So you specifically say it's 20%, it's 25, it's 30, whatever. If you cannot generate 20% of the midterm grade by midterm, we will ask you for explanations of why. So the best example I have all of this already is that the students in education who are doing their classroom teaching had to go through extensive background checks now by the FBI for pre-K. They haven't got into the classroom yet, right? They have not set foot. They've got some points. It ain't close to 20%. That's fine. That's the explanation we want. We'll have a rationale. Why can't you generate 20% of the grade? Again, it's not a yes or no, but it's not going to be because I don't want to give them test 1 in week 4. Well, that's too bad, right? If there is something that precludes you from generating 20% of the grade by that point, that's, again, we understand that there are courses that are going to have that preclusion. We are working on course alterations with curriculum committee. So these are minor changes. You're going to change a word in the title. You're going to clean up some stuff. It's not really impacting curriculum. You don't want to sit in curriculum committee for 6 months, have them come back to you about your learning outcomes, have them come back to you about your syllabus, have them come back to you about everything in the world. You get to do a course alteration. It's under negotiation what that will be. Once I know what that is, I will post it here and say, these things are a course alteration. Now, you may think you are changing one of these things. Whatever we decide as course alterations, you may think, I'm hitting a course alteration. If we, and by we I mean I'm going to take responsibility with Sean and Misty, if we think you have exceeded a course alteration and you have changed something substantial, we will kick you over to curriculum committee anyway, and you're stuck with the full review. This is to provide expedited reviews for things that are minor. It is an additional new kind of service so that things can speed up. Do not complain if we decide to give you the old regular service, right? Because that'll make me cranky and I'll be like, kill him. I don't care anymore, right? I'm back to being a jerk. We will try and parse this out as best we can. I will try and be as transparent as I can about what qualifies as what. But that does not guarantee you will get one or the other. Sean?
So the only courses in KIM that are eligible for course alterations would be ones that do not have a syllabi or a syllabus in the KIM proposal already, or that don't have their expected learning outcomes. So those are 2 things that would have to be submitted as course changes so that the faculty senate would be approving.
So Sean would say one of the conditions for even being able to submit a course alteration is you would have to have your learning outcomes in KIM. Not all courses do. We are working through the Teaching and Assessment Faculty Senate Committee to work back slowly to get all of those in, and you would have to have a sample syllabus attached. If you do not have those 2 things, even if you're changing a title, we're going to put you through course change, make you put those things in so we can update KIM, and you're stuck in the course change. Once you've got those in, if you've got learning outcomes in, you've got your attached syllabus, then you're eligible for alterations. Again, whatever that ends up meaning. Course changes are non-trivial stuff, learning outcomes, credit hours, course repeatability. You can package these with other trivial changes. And while I'm in here, I'm going to clean up the title. I'm going to clean up the course description. That's fine. Asking that a course becomes a GEF course, a Gen Ed course. Asking that a course becomes in a new Gen Ed area, if it's an existing GEF course, is a course change. That will get reviewed by Senate. Those are substantial. The Faculty Senate GEF webpage has lots more about how we evaluate courses, what we're looking for in those fields. I liaison with that committee. If you have questions about what to put in the GEF areas, feel free to shoot them to me. It will save you much, much time.
But they're not accepting new GEFs, are they?
Yes, we are. That moratorium has been lifted
Yesterday?
this year. Last year. End of last year at Senate.
Okay.
Yeah. Question was if we're accepting new Gen Ed courses. We are. I'm also I personally am also leading what I would like to see a 50% reduction-ish in GEF courses over the next 2 to 3 years. Put them through.
Well, I'm sure the purge will help some of that.
We have about 150 courses that have never been offered or used in the Gen Ed. That's where we will start. So there'll be a lot of courses that get whacked out that have never really even actively been part of the GEF. They were GEC holdovers and transitions. Requesting a course to be considered a capstone course is a course change. Even if it's an approved course, that's not a minor change, that's a major change. That will go through the full workflow. There is guidance on capstone courses. We've got a link to that, so if you want to do that, take a look at that. If you have questions, I'll point you somewhere, me, Sean. That should be, can we do banners on these things? Just like, call me or Sean. Yes?
Can I ask a question about the activation?
Yeah.
Does it go through all the committee levels, or?
It does. Of course, the activation is really, it's not being really reviewed. It's just being kind of rubber stamp approval. The curriculum committee, the Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee doesn't vote on it. It's mainly like a for information piece that the chair-elect will review, and then it makes its way through, but it's not really scrutinized
bunch of things, that need to be deactivated, and I was just wondering how much work I'm creating for any given committee if I do 20 course deactivations, for example.
It's not that substantial. I mean, it's more time consuming putting them all through rather than approving.
Actually approving. So the question was about how much work you create for somebody if you do a course deactivation and what the workflow is. It is kind of the full workflow. They don't vote on them, but they're all more or less just moved through the system and approved, so it's not a big deal. Yes?
Because I'm new faculty, then what is the workflow for getting a new course?
So it's that same very initial one I showed you for programs. Yep, it is, and I probably should specify that, and I will. Thank you for pointing that out. The only difference to point out is that all courses, regardless of level, go through the curriculum committee. But that's the same workflow. Yeah.
And there is a tool in KIM for both courses and programs that you can preview the workflow after you save the proposal type that you're submitting. So say you're in programs and you make a minor curricular change. Before saving and submitting, you can save the program, and there's a preview workflow function that shows you where it's going to be routed to. Same thing with courses, where if you have a course change, and you save before saving and submitting, it will bring up that record as it will be reviewed by all of the committees in workflow. You can click the preview workflow button, and it will show you where those changes will be routed to.
So Sean McGowan I'll volunteer to tell you about what you need to know about workflow. That was what happened for people not listening. The question was about how you know what the workflow is. If you save your changes in either KIM programs or KIM courses, and then preview the workflow after saving changes but not submitting them, you can get a preview of what the workflow, who will review and at what levels and what order. Thought we need that banner, Sean. I was kidding, but now I'm not. I mean, I was seriously just like, why am I so hungry? It's like noon, yo. These are the course elements that we look at. I'm going to do these quick. We have 5 minutes. Subject, code, and number. We're looking at appropriate level of learning for the course. It's a 100 level course. What will they do? This is their capstone experience. No. 300 level course, 400 level course, what will they do? We will introduce concepts. Well, it's not necessarily impossible that you're introducing concepts at the 300, 400 level. Are these advanced concepts? We will introduce beginner concepts at the 400 level. I think you may have missed your window, right? Make sure they're appropriate to the level of the course. There are title guidelines out there. We have those posted. Some are reserved, so you can't get these title guidelines. There are two different types of titles. You have the full title that will appear in the course catalog. This is a bit longer. You have the transcript title. It's appearing on a transcript. It can't be as long. It's like, it's Twitter and Twitter Junior, right? So think of these two as different. If they are both short, if your full title is obviously short enough to be on the transcript, it will appear as such on the transcript. If it is shorter, you need the transcript title. If it is longer, you need the transcript title. We see a lot of weirdness with credit hours and repeatability. There are guidelines on how to set the number of credit hours. I just worked through a course that was really short. It was proposed as a short course. It was supposed to be a short course. It had one assessment. They wanted 3 credit hours. It's kind of like, that's not a 3 credit hour course. That's a 1 credit hour course, right? It's really short. It has 1 assessment. And again, there are guidelines to kind of how to figure that out. Repeatable means not that students can take it again if they DF it. That's a policy, right? That's everybody. This course contained for credit again and counted for credit again in the program intentionally. It's repeatable, right? They need X number of credits in this course beyond the 3 they'll take in 1 semester. They need 6 in whatever. Good example, Sean, Misty? Yeah. Research courses? Yeah. Right, you need 6 hours of research. Each research course is going to be 3 hours. It's the same course. You need to take it twice. It's repeatable for 6 credit hours, right? That makes sense? We're paying more attention to pass-fail grading. If you are selecting pass-fail grading for anything that looks like it's a major course or a required course, we're probably going to push back a little bit on that. If you've got an experiential education course, so something that's a standalone service learning, an internship, a teaching practicum, and you want to grade that. So if it's not pass-fail, we're probably going to push on that and ask for academic rigor. If you're, the health sciences have clinical experiential courses. They are extraordinarily rigorous. They are well assessed. That's fine. They can be graded because they're connected to standards. If you're sending kids off an internship and you hear back from them once at the end of the year and it's like, yeah, they were great or they were terrible, that's a pass-fail. I mean, listen to what you just said, and we've had that actually. So the idea is to start aligning those kinds of courses with what feedback you're getting out of whatever partners you have for those courses.
So the next question would be, what is appropriate academic rigor?
Look, Joy. The question was, what is appropriate academic rigor? Something that would actually demonstrate that they have been assessed multiple times at multiple points for multiple things, right? A clinical experience, again, in health sciences is the gold standard because they're assessed on the ability to administer these, the ability to perform this assessment, the ability to interact with patients professionally, the ability to, it's like, well, there are 5 or 6 things they're being assessed on 5 or 6 times in the semester. That's then a grade, right? I can say they have earned their grade this way. I get one feedback from the employer and it's got a 3-question bank. How often were they on time? How pleasant was this person? That's probably pass-fail, right? And it's going to be that kind of thing. I shun giving you the hard like 50%, 500 points, whatever kind of thing. So it's a question of, if you're saying it's this one all or nothing and there's not a whole lot in the all or nothing, that's probably pass-fail.
So some programs have internships built into the curriculum, into the major. So we're going to have to sit down with them and explain what's probably getting ready to happen, and if they want to continue to have this graded, because you can't have pass-fail requirements as part of
your major
requirements.
Well, no.
No, you can't.
Can't?
Well, I mean, there are some that,
Okay.
so,
I'm going to punt that one.
Supposed to be that.
Okay. But it's not supposed to be, yeah. No, I would like to see the ones that are degree requirements have rigor, right? If you're recording this, or if you're requiring this, and you've got a partnership built, why aren't you asking them to provide you with the feedback that then is allowing you to assess your students meaningful in that experience? If it's an elective, then again, I'm more inclined to say, well, make it a pass-fail. It's an elective, right? Those are usually weaker partnerships. And part of it's getting information out of those experiences that is usable to determine the utility of those experiences. We're requiring an internship. How well is it working for you? We're requiring an internship. How well is it working for you? Right? If you don't get anything out of them, you can't tell me what it's doing for your students. If you're going to grade it, the idea is, well, then you're collecting something. What are you collecting? How are you assessing it? What is it impacting the program? Maybe it should perform like any other course, right? It's just about noon. If anybody needs to scuttle out, now is the time for unawkward pauses. I'll finish and just keep talking to myself. How you doing, camera? No awkward pauses. All right, cool. We'll go just real quickly. Catalog description. We get a lot of bad catalog descriptions, and I get to laugh at Sean and Misty's faces when they get these. You don't need to give us everything you've gotten everywhere else. We've got that everywhere else, right? So it is kind of a content description or a topical description of what's in the course. It's concise. It is not then a week-by-week bullet of everything you're going to cover. But again, almost similar to that program description. What am I going to learn in this course? These 3, 4, or 5 things. What are you going to cover? You can be stylistic. You can hit those in bullets. You can give those to us in sentences. We don't care so much about that, as you're not giving us the things we don't need. I like the last bullet point. Avoid jargon. If you need to take the course to understand the course description, probably not a good course description. I need to understand the course description before I've taken the course. It's for students. Catalog prereqs. Call Sean McGowan. I'm not even wading in here. Call the registrar's office. There are different kinds of prereqs. There are different ways of setting them. There are different effects, the way you determine them and set them. I am not the expert in that. I know they work on it a ton. So if you're questioning, if you want a prereq of a certain kind, or you want to limit students in a certain way, and you don't know how to accomplish that, the registrar's office can help you accomplish that. It's amazing. I love this. Expected learning outcomes. Same guidance at the course level. We have 16 learning outcomes. How many units do you have? We have 8 units. What the hell are you doing in that course that you've got 16 learning outcomes? You're assessing these. These are the things you will address. They are not outcomes in the sense of the things they will produce, but the things that students can do. They should align with programs. We are going to have a new field right underneath this in Kim courses that says, hey, these are the course learning outcomes. What are they? How do they support the program learning outcomes? It's going to support this program learning outcome, this program learning outcome, so that you start making those right off the bat, intentionally designing curriculum that actually supports a program learning outcome, right? And again, if you have questions with this, now that's call me, right? I am the one that has changed this, because what we would see are courses that we were like, when we pull up the program learning outcomes and I pull up this course is super interesting. It does not have anything to do with the published program learning outcomes. Why are we offering this course? Because Professor X loves this stuff. All right, that's fine. Is Professor X going to be here forever? Yeah. Is he going to offer more of these courses? Yeah. Change your program learning outcomes. Oh, okay, let's go over here and add a new program learning outcome. Can you map that back to the curriculum? Yeah, we can. These should be a partnership between courses and learning. Courses and programs, excuse me. Let me know if you've got questions about these. All of the same things I said about program learning outcomes are true for course learning outcomes. What is the level of the course? What is the progression through the material? What is the relationship to the assessments? We like alignments. So you got all these high-level course learning outcomes. They're gonna analyze, they're gonna synthesize, they're gonna do all these great things. How do you test them? There's gonna be one multiple choice final. That's really interesting. How are you going to get them to analyze anything in a multiple choice final? And it's possible. I've seen that the bar exam is something I think they do analysis with. You're really going to do a bar exam in your 200 level course? Probably not. Like, walk that back maybe on your learning outcomes, right? It's okay to have low level learning outcomes in a 100 level course. They match the type of testing you likely do in a big survey course, right? Think about alignment of assessment types with learning outcomes with course level learning. Like, all of those things are a piece. We will try and look at all of those things. Give us a syllabus from the syllabus builder. If you want to add optional statements, we have a website that has all of them now. If you really feel strongly about putting a statement in, copy and paste from this. This has all of those different statements. What I would prefer to see is people pointing to this website. Students are responsible for understanding the academic integrity statement. Here's the URL. Go learn it. Students are responsible for all these statements. Go see them. You do not have to do these, but because these are going to be kept up to date, we see lots of syllabi that have the 1990s version of the academic integrity statement. We're like, don't do that. That's not the right one. Right? And we have to send that back to you. And I know faculty get that email from the curriculum committee and they're like, my eyes. Right? Well, save yourself the pain. Point to this website. You can save all that problem. It has all the statements you need. I keep this updated. I'll add the new ones we're developing. We're developing 2 new ones for this year. Samples on how to put a syllabus policy on days of special concern. Like, if I want to request a day of special concern, since we pulled those off the calendar, what's a way for an instructor to say, I would like notification at the beginning of the semester, 2 weeks in advance. What is it? We'll have some samples for that. We're going to have samples on technology distraction policy. I'm the professor who doesn't believe you should have phones in your class. That's fine. You want to put that in your syllabus? That's fine. Here are some ways you can say, don't bring these things into my class, right? So those will be up here. Link these so that way you're covered and you can have them in one place. Yeah?
With these policies here, above it says like it's optional to put them in your syllabus.
Mm-hmm.
If a given instructor says, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they could say that in their syllabus and say that like 6, I'm just making numbers.
Mm-hmm.
6 and 7, don't worry about, but the rest be aware of.
Sure.
Or are they all considered policy at the beginning?
So these are all optional. The attendance, there are the ones that have policy in them are policy. They are university policy, the catalog. We put them here also because people link to them a lot. Those are policy. That doesn't, you can supersede these with additional policies as long as they don't conflict or break bad policy, but policy is policy. Statements are just statements. So I can ignore 1, 3, 10, right? But I'm going to include 4, 6, and 11, right? Those statements are optional. The policy, that's the we try to do with the difference between policy and statement, is that the policy is policy. Statements are optional. You can include as many or as few as you like, including none. But if you're going to include them, you need to include them as verbatim, these statements, which is why I say point to these then. Trying to use a mouse with a remote, it's amazing. And then lastly, if there's overlap with other units, if you've got overlap with other units, you need a letter. That's it.